Hi guys, today we're going to talk about how to checkmate with a knight and a bishop, with all variations. So let's get into it. Knight c2, king f3, knight c1, king e4, king d2, king d4, knight b3, king e4, king e2, king f5, king d3, king g6, king d4, king g7, king e5, king f7, knight c1, king g8, king f6, king h8, knight e2, king g8, knight f4, king h7, bishop c4, king h8, knight g6 check, king h7, bishop a2, king h6, knight e5, king h7, knight f7, king g8, bishop g4, king f8, knight e5, king e8, bishop b3, king d8, king e6, king c7, knight d7, king c6, bishop a4 check, king b7, knight c5, king a7, knight b3, king a6, king d7, king b7, b6, bishop c6 check, king b6, king d6, king a6, king c7, king a7, bishop b5, king a8, bishop d7, king a7, knight c5, king a8, king b7, king b8, knight to a6 check, king to a8, and finally bishop to c6 checkmate. As you can see, the king has nowhere to go because the knight is blocking this square and the king is fully blocking these three squares, and the bishop is attacking the king on a8. Okay, so let's get into the second one. So this is another variation where it starts with bishop to g2, king to f4, king to e2, king to g5, king to d3, king to f4, king to d4, king to g5, king to e5, king to h6, king to f6, king to h5, knight to d3, king to g4, king bishop to d5, king to h5, bishop to e4, king to h6, knight to c1, king to h5, bishop to g2, king to g4, knight to d3, king to h5, bishop to d5, and king to h6, knight to c1, king to h7, bishop to a2, king to h8, bishop to c4, king to h7, knight c2, king h8, bishop d5, king h7, king e5, king g7, knight c1, king h8, bishop c4, king g8, bishop a2, king g6, bishop d5, king g5, bishop g2, king h4, king f5, king h5, bishop e4, king h6, king f6, king h5, bishop d5, king g4, knight e2, king h3, king g5, king h2, king f4, king h3, knight b4, knight h4, knight f5 check, king h3, king f3, king h2, bishop b3, king h3, bishop b1, king h2, knight e3, king h3, knight g2, king h2, bishop e2, king h3, bishop f1, king h2, knight e3, king h1, king f2, king h2, knight g4 check, king h1, and finally bishop to g2 checkmate. As you can see again, this king is blocking these two squares, and the knight is blocking this square, and the bishop is attacking the king on h1. Okay, so let's get into the next variation. So bishop g2 again, king d4, king d2, king e5, king d3, king f6, bishop king d4, king g7, king e5, king h8, king f6, king g8, king e6, king g7, king e5, king g6, king e6, king h7, bishop e4 check, king h8, king f6, king g8, bishop c2, king h8, bishop e4, king g8, bishop f3, king h8, king f7, king f7, king bishop g2, king h8, knight c2, king h7, knight f4, king h8, knight c2, king h7, knight f7, knight f4, king h8, bishop h1, king h7, bishop e4 check, king h7, knight to e2, king to g5, king to g7, king to h5, knight to f4 check, king to g4, knight to d3, king to h5, bishop to h1, king to g5, bishop to e4, king to h4, king to g6, king to g4, bishop to b7, king to h7, bishop to f3, king to g3, bishop e2, king h4, king f5, king g3, king g5, king h3, king f4, king h4, knight e2, knight e1, king h3, bishop to g4 check, king to h4 2, king to f3, king to g1, bishop to h3, king to h2 again, king to g4 guarding the bishop on h3, king to g1, king to g3, king to h1, which is a forced move, bishop to g2 check, king to g1 again, knight to f3, checkmate. So we have seen all the variations of how to checkmate with a knight and bishop.